Mesmerized by a light novel audiobook. Chapter 1 to Chapter 3. Should I undress myself first? Or do you want me to take off your clothes for you? Eleanor Sutherland asked carefully while standing at the bathroom door with a bath towel wrapped around her. It was the first night of her marriage. On this night, with a piece of black silk covering his eyes, the man who was sitting on the wheelchair would be her husband from now on. In fact, this was her first time meeting him. Pictures didn't do him justice at all, as he looked way better in person. His well-defined features, including his nose with a prominent bridge, thick dark eyebrows, as well as his tall and fine physique, all of it just screamed the heartthrob of her dreams. Unfortunately, he was a blind man sitting on a wheelchair. There was a saying that Wyatt Malcolm was born a bringer of bad luck. When he was 9 years old, both of his parents died, and when he was 13 years old, his sister passed away. As he became an adult, 3 of his fiancées had passed away one after another. Upon hearing the rumors, Summer was indeed a little frightened, but her uncle Andrew had said that if she would marry Wyatt, the Malcolm family would be willing to pay for her grandmother's hospital bills. For the sake of her grandmother, Eleanor Sutherland, she was willing to sacrifice herself. Seeing that the man didn't reply, Summer thought he didn't hear her, so she repeated once again, HMPH, slowly taking off the black silk that was covering his eyes. The arrogant man darted a glance at her. Do you actually know who you are married to? Noticing the frosty glare from his eyes, Summer instinctively shrunk back. On second thought, she figured there was nothing to be afraid of. He was blind after all. But then again, how could a blind person have such an intense stare? Since Summer had never met anyone who was blind, she wasn't too sure. I do, she answered honestly to his question. With his thick eyebrows knitted together, he asked, aren't you afraid of death? After he had taken off the black silk from his eyes, he appeared even more cold and arrogant. No, I am not afraid, Summer replied as she felt her heart hammering away in her chest. Gazing at him, she continued in an even more determined tone. I owe it to you since you have saved Granny. I'll surely keep my promise, bear your children, and take care of you for the rest of your life. After observing her for a moment, Wyatt could tell that her face was filled with determination. A while later, he smirked. In that case, you can help bathe me. A moment of hesitation later, Summer replied, sure. From the moment she had promised Mr. Wayne Malcolm to marry his grandson, Wyatt, she never thought of going back on her word. After they were done with their marriage registration, she would officially be his wife. Considering her husband was a disabled person, it should be her duty as a wife to help him take a shower. I'll get the water ready then, said Summer as her petite frame could be seen entering the bathroom. Gazing at her back, Wyatt's eyebrows furrowed heavily. Just in case, he had hired someone to do a background check on her. Surprisingly, this woman's background was as clean as a whistle. All for the sake of her grandmother's hospital fees. This country bumpkin was willing to marry him, a person with a reputation of bringing bad fortune to others. All 3 of his previous fiancées were well-known young ladies from the upper-class society who were born into well-off and reputable families of Blackburn City. However, one after another, they were all assassinated before their wedding. Hence, Wyatt wondered how someone as dim-witted and innocent as Summer could survive until now. Perhaps she looks too dumb, which explains why they didn't even bother to lay a finger on her. Or maybe she is just putting on an act. While Wyatt was still absorbed in his thoughts, he heard the sound of the bathroom door opening. Lifting his gaze, his eyes glistened with a hint of shock, as a dainty woman slowly walked out from the bathroom, which was now filled with water vapor. Her ebony silky long hair was damp due to the steam, and there were even wisps of vapor lingering around her collarbone. By now, the bath towel that was wrapped tightly around her was drenched, which accentuated her slender body line. Give me a second, she said as she crouched down and pulled out a carrier bag under the bed. After that, she opened the suitcase and there was a range of lingerie neatly arranged on the top. Taking out a set of ivory lace lingerie, she tore the tag off and put it on. Assuming that Wyatt was unable to see her, she casually changed right in front of his eyes. Yet, all of her innocent acts had a different meaning to his eyes. He wondered whether she did that on purpose in order to test whether he was really blind. Once Summer was done changing herself, she walked toward Wyatt and pushed the wheelchair toward the bathroom door. Supporting Wyatt with one hand, she began to take off his clothes one by one after they were in the washroom. Through the mist, Wyatt squinted at her and noticed her unwavering clear eyes. With her head lowered, Summer was so focused on what she was doing that it was as though she was working on an assignment during class. Firstly, she took off his watch, then his shirt, which was followed by. In the end, there was the last piece of garment left. Flinching a little, she stammered, "See, can you still have that on during your bath?" While he was reading her expression, Wyatt had an evil smirk on his face. "With that on, I think you'll miss washing up some parts." "Well, I guess you're right." Tilting her head, Summer reached out her petite hands. With a darkened expression, Wyatt darted a frosty stare at her as his eyebrows drew together. Is this woman truly dumb? Or is she trying to play dumb? Does she have no sense of shame? This way to the tub. As though she wasn't bothered by the differences between their bodies, Summer supported Wyatt and helped him into the tub. Nonetheless, her face did turn a little scarlet. After he was in the tub, she patted her cheeks and tried to calm herself down. "You don't mind a little pain, right?" "No." Hearing that, Summer tucked her hair behind her ears and turned around to search for something from the cupboard. In the next second, she took out a piece of cloth that seemed quite coarse. A vein on Wyatt's forehead was pulsing as he thought, "On our first wedding night, she's going to give me a back scrub." Without asking for his opinion, Summer went straight to his back and started scrubbing. "Let me know if it hurts. I'll reduce the pressure." Wyatt was left completely speechless, while Summer worked in earnest. Before marrying Wyatt, she had been taking care of her ill grandma for some time. During bath time, her grandma enjoyed it very much whenever she gave her a back scrub, and she said it helped her to sleep better throughout the night. Similarly, Summer thought Wyatt would like it as much. Squatting down beside the bathtub, she scrubbed every inch of his body. Though she was scrubbing with all her strength, Wyatt only felt like she was tickling him. Then again, he could tell that she was really serious and diligent with her work, as sweat soon started to form on her forehead. Frowning, Wyatt began to doubt whether he had misunderstood her. What bad intentions could an innocent and silly little young lady like her hold up her sleeves? As soon as she had scrubbed all other parts of his body, Summer pointed at that specific region, and she asked with her face flushed, "Do you need me to wash you there as well?" "What do you think?" Wyatt questioned in return as he stared intensely at her. After pondering about it, Summer said, "I guess I might as well do it." With that, she took the cloth and went straight for it. Without warning, the man caught her by the hand and stopped her from moving any further. The atmosphere turned as silent as the grave. "How am I supposed to clean you up if you're holding my hand like that?" Summer asked, an innocent look on her face. Little did she know that it would have been an utter disaster if that piece of cloth was used to scrub its intended destination. "Get out," the man demanded in a frosty manner. Confused, Summer asked, "How are you supposed to wash yourself if I get out? He can't see, right?" Without replying, the man remained silent. As the atmosphere had gotten even more tense, Summer noticed his anger. Taking the bath cloth with her, she walked out and reminded, "Do be careful. Let me know if you need me." The moment Summer got out of the bathroom, she was feeling uneasy. repeatedly glancing at the direction of the bathroom. She thought, the bathroom floor is kind of slippery. What if he falls? Or worse still, what if he dies from the fall? Since she just got married, she certainly didn't want to become a widow that soon. While she was still feeling nervous, her phone rang. Her best friend, Harper Taylor, had sent her a video message with the title of For Your Study Purposes. For study purposes, she thought. Then, she played the video while wondering what it was about, since the exam was scheduled much later this year. MMPH. When the video was played, a woman was lying on top of a man, with her face turning scarlet. Summer tried to stop the video right away, but her cheap phone decided to fail her at this very moment. Just when she was unable to stop the video, the bathroom door opened. MMH. As soon as Wyatt walked out of the bathroom, he heard an embarrassing sound. With a darkened expression, he asked, "What are you doing?" Hearing that, Summer felt chills down her spine, and she almost dropped her phone on the floor. With panic surging through her, she hid her phone right under the blanket. Though the sound wasn't as loud now, the woman in the video seemed to be moaning in an even higher tone. "Are you?" Wyatt began, his eyebrows knitted together. I am watching a video about body scrub," Summer explained as she sat on top of the blanket, hoping that it would help to muffle the woman's voice. With his refined features slightly scrunched up, Wyatt asked, "A video about body scrub?" "Exactly." Sitting on top of her blanket, she wiped off the cold sweat on her forehead and continued to make up stories. "The video is about a man who was giving the woman a body scrub. He did it so strongly that the woman was in pain, but she felt really good at the same time, so she cried out loud." Not knowing what to say, Wyatt thought, besides thinking that I am blind, she must be thinking that I am a blockhead too. While the room fell into an awkward silence, the woman's voice from the video was still somewhat audible. Lying on top of the blanket in a rather embarrassing position, Summer was wearing only her lingerie. The dim and warm light shone on her porcelain skin, creating a sight that could easily make one's heart skip a beat. Feeling his breathing quickening, Wyatt's eyes darkened. With more sweat forming on her forehead, Summer realized how exhausting it could get by just lying on top of the soft blankets. Fortunately, the video had finally come to an end. Wiping the sweat off her forehead, she took out her phone, which was scalding hot by now, from under the blanket. Giving her a half smile, the man took a seat at the edge of the bed. "So, the body scrub session is over?" "Yep. It's over," Summer said while smiling awkwardly. Sure enough, one shouldn't scrub too hard. Once again, Wyatt was left speechless. Seeing that he wasn't going to reply, Summer guiltily deleted the video and sent out a message to Harper. "Are you trying to get me killed or what?" Instantly, Harper replied to her text. "How ungrateful. I was only lending you a hand. Didn't you say that your husband is disabled? As an angel who has descended from heaven, I deliberately found a video that will teach you how to tackle the problem. Learn it well." She could distinctly feel her face turning crimson as she typed, "Go to hell." Assuming that Wyatt was blind, Summer didn't bother to text behind his back, so Wyatt could see the whole text conversation between her and Harper. "When I was about to stop the video, my phone malfunctioned and he heard everything. He asked me what it was about. I managed to make up stories to trick him. You're lucky that he's blind. Otherwise, I would have died of embarrassment." Wyatt remained silent even though he saw that. "OFL. Sunshine. You're killing me. Go to hell. Anyway, all the best on your first night. Hope everything goes well with you and your charming blind hubby." Raising an eyebrow, Wyatt thought, charming blind hubby. How insulting. After taking a deep breath, Summer placed down her phone as she looked into his eyes and announced, "Let's begin." Staring back at her, the man didn't reply. with her hands tightened into fists. Summer knew very well that the person before her was a man she had only known for less than 24 hours. Of course, she could also tell that the man didn't like her. But her Aunt Grace had advised her that it was important to get things done on the first night of their marriage. Otherwise, their married life wouldn't be blessed. Pouncing onto Wyatt, she wrapped her arms around his neck and went straight for his thin lips. Like an innocent child trying to get a good taste of a pudding, Summer slipped her tongue in between his lips, and in a clumsy manner, she attempted to deepen the kiss. With his expression darkened, Wyatt could tell that the lady was serious about this and was determined to proceed till the end with him. Holding onto her thin waist, the man whispered, "Are you sure you want to regret this? You're my husband now. I want to regret this decision." Summer replied, her cheeks turning crimson. Gazing at her, there was a tinge of gentleness in Wyatt's eyes. In his husky voice, he said, "It'll be painful. Are you scared?" "Yes." Pressing her lips together, she intended to proceed further, but the man grabbed her by the wrist. "I believe the man should take the lead from here." The next morning, two maids who were in charge of preparing breakfast came walking into the entrance of Malcolm Villa. Both of them had a drowsy look on their faces. The new madam looked so innocent. "Since our master is disabled, do you think everything went smoothly for them last night?" "I guess so. I heard from the bodyguards that they heard Madam's cries. It was really loud in the beginning. But a while later, they were probably hiding under the blanket. Anyhow, they still sounded thrilled." "Are you serious? That's a surprise, considering the fact that Madam looked so innocent." Walking toward the kitchen, the two maids were gossiping away happily. "Good morning, everyone." Wearing a pair of round frame glasses, the young lady with a pastel-colored apron was seen setting 2 plates of pancakes on the dining table. Looking cheery. "I didn't expect you two to arrive this early." The atmosphere turned a little awkward as both of the maids stared at each other in astonishment. Upon making sure that Summer didn't overhear their conversation, both of them hurriedly went forward and took the condiments from her hands. "Madam, you are up so early." With a grin, Summer took a glimpse at the clock. "Not really. It's already past 6 o'clock. In fact, she was up later than usual, as she didn't sleep well last night." Feeling nervous, the maids wondered whether she was upset about them arriving late. In a hasty manner, both of them raced to the kitchen, but they then realized that breakfast was already served at the dining table. There were sunny side-up eggs, bacon, as well as pancakes with maple syrup. Dumbstruck, one of the maids began, "Madam, did you?" "Oh, I prepared them." Summer beamed. "I wasn't sure of my darling's preference, so I prepared the typical breakfast which I usually prepare for my grandma." With that, she dashed toward the dining table and passed them the plate of pancakes. "There isn't much, because I didn't expect both of you to arrive this early. Please have some of these. I'll go and make some more." Seeing that Summer was about to dash back into the kitchen, the maids immediately stopped her. "Madam, that's not necessary." They were paid to prepare breakfast in Malcolm Villa every day, now that Summer had taken over their jobs. And if Wyatt found out about this, would they still be able to keep their job? "Madam, Mistress Lucy and I are responsible for preparing breakfast here. Since you're new and still not familiar with our master's diet, it'll be great if you can stay out of this," said one of the maids. And she didn't sound pleased at all. "Mistress Kane is right. Madam, you'd better not come near the kitchen," Mistress Lucy chimed in. "Besides, our master doesn't fancy this type of breakfast." Looking down on the typical breakfast prepared by Summer, Mistress Kane ridiculed her by saying, "For someone like Mr. Malcolm, he always takes a healthy breakfast like oatmeal with a glass of milk. The breakfast that you prepared seemed rather unhealthy, don't you think?" Hearing that, Summer was astounded at first, but she felt disheartened a while later. With her head hanging, she said, "You're right. Wealthy people were usually health conscious and would very much prefer that sort of breakfast." In her school, those students who were more well off certainly wouldn't choose to have meals at their school canteen, let alone for someone like Wyatt. How silly of me, she thought. After adjusting her mood, Summer lifted her chin and smiled at Mistress Kane. "I guess all these should go into the bin." Mistress Lucy froze, for she thought Summer would be furious, as Mistress Kane sounded rather harsh. But much to her surprise, Summer even offered to dump the food without getting angry. Casting a glance at the hearty breakfast on the dining table, Mistress Lucy felt sorry for the younger lady, so she suggested, "Madam, if you don't mind, we servants can have them rather than wasting them. Then again, it'll be great if you don't step into the kitchen next time." After hesitating for a moment, Summer said, "All right, I'll go upstairs now." With that, she turned around and went back upstairs. Feeling a little upset inside, Summer sniffled quietly, as she realized she was not welcomed or accepted in this house. Meanwhile, in the bedroom, the decent-looking man was still sleeping soundly. Lying on the bed, Summer stared at the man's chiseled jawline. Biting on her lower lip, she grumbled, "You people from the city are simply spoiled. Of all things, why must you have oatmeal for breakfast? I've never had them before, so how am I supposed to make them?" Before she got married, her Aunt Grace had advised her on all the things she needed to take note of after becoming a wife. First things first, a woman would have to fulfill her husband's every desire in bed. Secondly, a woman had to fulfill her husband's food cravings. As long as those two were fulfilled, their marriage would certainly last for a lifetime. As Summer thought of last night's incident, followed by the incident that happened in the kitchen just now, she couldn't help but feel wronged. Considering that she was a newlywed, she really didn't want her married life to turn miserable. Last night, Wyatt had kissed her for a while, but he didn't continue until the end, making her worry about his body's condition. In the end, she thought that it was fine if they didn't do it in bed, for her culinary skills would probably be good enough to make up for it. However, her culinary skills had officially been rejected as well. In this case, she had gotten back to square one, fulfilling his desires in bed. "Hey," pursing her lips, she gazed at his tall nose bridge. "I am going to kiss you if you're still not awake." With his eyes still shut, Wyatt's thick eyebrows moved a little. Admiring his distinctive features up close, Summer could feel her heart pounding. Leaning closer toward him, she intended to kiss him. After several attempts, however, she decided to give up in the end, as she gave in to her nerves. Forget about it. Maybe Aunt Grace is wrong. Maybe there isn't a correlation between having sex and feeling happy in marriage life, she thought. Still, she felt uneasy about it. Just then, her phone rang. It was her Aunt Grace who called. Taking her phone with her, Summer dashed into the bathroom. "Summer, how did it go?" Grace asked in a rather straightforward manner the moment the call connected. As the bathroom door was left ajar, the conversation between Grace and Summer could be clearly heard from outside. "Well, not good. Not good. You didn't do it." "Yeah, Summer," with an intense earnestness, Grace said over the phone. "Bear in mind your new identity. As Mistress Malcolm, your first and most important mission is to produce offspring for the Malcolms. Don't forget that you've promised them that you will bear his child within 2 years." "Aunt Grace, don't worry. I haven't forgotten that," Summer said while holding onto her phone tightly. Obviously, this was her first time getting married, so she had no experience in this. "I'll work hard to bear his child." Upon hearing her firm reply, Grace heaved a sigh of relief. "And I have to remind you, Wyatt and you are now officially married, so you have to call him hubby." Summer's face reddened. and she said, "I understand." Just then, Summer heard the bedroom door opening, and she thought it was probably one of the maids who came in. Fearing that they would awaken Wyatt, she immediately hung up the call and walked out. However, there was no one in the room. Wyatt, along with the wheelchair by the bed, was nowhere to be seen. Running out of the room, Summer headed downstairs right away, and she saw the man in a black shirt sitting at the dining table. With his eyes covered by a piece of black silk, he looked mysterious and somewhat distant while eating his breakfast leisurely. "Madam, come over and have breakfast," Mistress Kane said warmly. "Try this. I hope it's to your liking." Judging from her current enthusiasm, it was hard to believe that it was the same Mistress Kane who treated her harshly just now. Slowly making her way down the stairs, Summer took a gander at the dining table, which was now filled with food she had never eaten before. After this morning's incident, Summer felt that this unfamiliar spread probably wouldn't suit her taste. At that moment, she thought of the cold pickles which she had kept in the refrigerator this morning. Although Wyatt didn't like it, she could still eat it, right? With that thought in mind, the girl skipped toward the kitchen and took the jar of pickles. Sitting back at the dining table, she started munching on the pickles. Frowning, Wyatt sat at the opposite side of the wide dining table and asked curiously, "What are you eating?" "Something that you don't fancy," Summer replied. Then she pursed her lips. Giving her a half smile, he said, "How will you know?" "Mistress Kane told me," Summer said innocently before biting on her lower lip. Standing not too far from where they were, Mistress Kane froze with terror. The man with his eyes covered with a piece of black silk gracefully took a sip of milk from the glass. "Mistress Kane told you that I want tea like it?" "Yep." In a somewhat amused tone, he asked, "Why would there be something in the refrigerator that I don't like?" Feeling a little embarrassed, Summer replied, "It was me. I didn't try to find out what your preferences were. So I just made a simple and typical breakfast that I prepared every other day." "Is that so?" Slowly, Wyatt placed the glass of milk down onto the glass table. The dangerous sound gave Mistress Kane a fright, and she almost fell on her knees. "Actually, I didn't know that I wouldn't like the things you have prepared," the man said frostily. Before Summer could understand what he really meant, the jar of pickles before her was taken away from her. Picking up his fork, Wyatt took a piece of the pickle and took a bite. Clearly, it wasn't something he had tried before. It tasted a little sour, sweet, and spicy at the same time. "Not bad," Wyatt said as he elegantly put down his fork. "Mistress Kane, have I ever mentioned that I wouldn't like food such as these?" This morning, this little lady lay beside him and complained about him being spoiled. He deduced that it was because Mistress Kane had given her a hard time. Noticing the frosty tone in his voice, Mistress Kane tried to suppress a shiver and subconsciously hid behind Mistress Lucy. "Mistress Kane, you're not going to say anything, is it because you don't find it necessary to explain things to a blind person like me?" Wyatt added. Thanks for listening to the Bravonovel audiobook. Welcome to download the Bravonovel app. Read the novel Mesmerized by a Lie online and get the latest updates. Please see the video introduction for the novel details page and app download address.